I'm your host, Natalie Bradley, and this year we are enjoying stories around our region and within our service area from the past and the present. And today we're going to focus mostly on our past and really talk about an interesting historical figure. We have some really fun events that are coming up at the end of this month that you're going to want to make sure that you mark your calendars. A production of Flint Energies, your local touchtone energy cooperative. Front Porch Chats brings you along while we discuss interesting events, people in history, programs, and hidden gems located in Central and Southwest Georgia. Grab a glass of iced tea while we chat for a spell. I've got two guests with me today, and I'm actually going to let them introduce themselves. Tell us about you.
Yes, I'm John Trussell, and I am with the American Friends of Lafayette, and I'm the co-chair of the Georgia Steering Committee. I'm also the public information person for the Sons of the American Revolution in Georgia.
My name is Nikki McDonald. I am the president of the Crawford County Historical Society.
Mr. Trussell, why don't you tell us exactly what is this Lafayette thing about and why is it important? Why do we care?
General Marquis de Lafayette was one of the most important, consequential figures from the American Revolution. Not only did he volunteer his services to America at a very critical time in the Revolution, he helped provide very important funding to the American Revolution, and without his support, we would probably not be the country we are today. So we owe him and France a huge debt of gratitude. We're about to celebrate the 200th anniversary of his 1825 visit to Georgia and the United States. And we in Georgia and our steering committee are putting together a tour of every stop that he went to. But first, I want to tell you a little bit about him coming to America. Lafayette came to America as a guest of President James Monroe, who hoped to rekindle the American spirit. He was involved in a lot of testy politics with his opposition candidates. And he just thought it'd be a great thing to revive the American spirit, to have Lafayette return. So he invited him to America.
So that's not just a modern problem.
It's not correct. Yeah, Lafayette had come to the United States in 1777 as a 19-year-old marquis. Now, the marquis is a title for a nobleman of high hereditary rank in European peerages. It is the second highest rank in the peerage, below the duke and above an earl, viscount, and baron. Now, they still use titles in England, even though they are a democracy. But he came here as a marquis. He left France without permission, stowed away in the middle of the night on a boat that he had bought himself and paid the crew on. So, and he sailed on a ship that he had paid for himself. Arriving in America several weeks later, he presented himself to the commander-in-chief, George Washington, who apologized to the wealthy nobleman for this ragged state of his troops. And Lafayette said, "The perfect thing. I am here to learn, not to teach." The young Frenchman proved to be an ideal ally. He was enthusiastic, capable, and without an ounce of old world pride. America took him to heart. And now at age 67, he would reconnect with their earlier glory. Lafayette returned to the United States with his son George, named after George Washington, and his secretary, Auguste Lafayette, who handled Lafayette's arrangements and sent him bulletins of all the doings that was going on. This trip was a nationwide excursion, and it required tight scheduling. After touring the southern area of New York and New England, Philadelphia, and Washington, Lafayette's party headed south to Georgia, cut west across the American Indian Territory and the Gulf of Mexico to New Orleans, and went north to the Mississippi and back up to Ohio. A swing across New York allowed them to visit Boston for the 50th anniversary of the Battle of Bunker Hill on June 17th, 1825. And then Lafayette returned to Washington and sailed back to France on September the 8th. It's interesting that when he returned to France, that King Louis XVI actually had him put under house arrest because he had left without permission earlier. He was lucky that he was returned as a general. And once he was released after a few days, the people in France saw him as a rock star because, they were basically kind of like in a Cold War with Great Britain. So he was a hero. And when he got back in 1779, during that brief visit before he came back to America, he was able to secure vital French financial support. It's been estimated that France provided, I'm thinking it was like what today is like $89 million.
Wow.
To the American cause. It was like $2 million back then, with inflation being like 1.5% per year. It amounts to almost $90 million. And it's also important to note that Lafayette was a wealthy person himself, and he had contributed $200,000 to the American cause in direct aid and supplies. Today, that $200,000 is worth about $4.5 million. So you can see that this was a very important financial contribution that he made. Well, let's talk a little bit about what we're planning in Georgia.
Okay.
Now, after he left South Carolina, he arrived in Savannah aboard a steamship on the 19th of March in 1825. He actually spent 3 days there. And he arrived by the steamship at Yamacraw Bluff. And today, if you go to the Hyatt Regency Hotel in Savannah, there on River Street, where River Street comes in, there's a marker there that was placed by the DAR. That's actually where Oglethorpe landed, and that is also where Lafayette landed.
Okay.
Pretty historical spot there. When he was in Savannah, they had parades and speeches, and he stayed overnight at Mrs. Maxwell's house, which is also known as the Owens Thomas House today.
Okay.
And he went to Johnson Square, where he laid the cornerstones for the monuments for the Nathaniel Greene Monument, and also for the monument of Casimir Pulaski. Both of these people were very important in the American Revolution, and Nathaniel Greene actually died in Savannah of a heat stroke after the Revolution.
That's right.
And then Casimir Pulaski was actually killed at the Battle of Savannah. He was wounded and later died. So it's a very important location there for us. Once he left Savannah, he went to Augusta on March the 23rd and 24th of 1825. They had a welcoming parade, a greeting, and a dinner, and a ball at the City Hall. And of course, the Masonic Lodge had a lot to do with all these ceremonies because Lafayette was a Freemason, which was a big deal back then. It still is.
Yeah.
He leaves there in his horse-drawn carriage at a very fast pace and goes to Warrenton, where he has a very nice greeting. At the site is actually the Eagle Tavern.
Okay.
That's where we're going to be duplicating that event, and that's where the historical marker is located that we've already installed. And then he goes to Warrenton, stays at the home of Jacob Burkhalter, and they have a reception, parade, and speeches. Just a big reception there. And then he goes to Milledgeville, which in 1825 is the state capital of Georgia, and Governor Troup would greet him there. And they had a non-dancing ball at the State House. A dinner was held under the arbor at the State House Square. And today there's still a marker there, a big granite marker that you can see. And he attends a ball that evening in the Capitol chambers. And we'll be duplicating a lot of this in our upcoming events.
Okay.
And nearly everything we do is open to the public. And what is not open to the public, you can buy a ticket for.
Oh, okay.
So that's good. Now, once he left Milledgeville, he goes to Macon, and he crosses Bridge Street. He actually came across Macon on a barge. Now, remember that this is 1825, and Macon was founded in 1823. So there was almost nothing in
Brand
Macon.
new.
Brand new, nothing there. Didn't have a bridge. He came across on a barge with his carriage. And once he gets to what is Macon, he was tired of being in a carriage, so he got off the carriage and walked into Macon. And there they had a dinner for him, a luncheon. at the Macon Hotel. He was there in Macon for 2.5 hours after he was greeted by the mayor and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And then he heads over toward the Creek Nation, leaves civilization as it is, and he heads west. And there he goes over to Roberta and the Indian Agency. And I'm going to ask Nikki to chime in on our big events that we have planned for Roberta and the Indian Agency.
We are actually putting together, we're going to have a reenactment with an actor playing Lafayette, and we're going to have a parade with reenactors from the Revolutionary era marching with him. We'll also be including a lot of community members, children from the high school. We're going to do a reenactment of his speeches that he gave
Okay.
with the local officials.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to plan on having some events down on the square in Roberta
Okay.
that day. It'll be a morning event. It's not going to be an all day. It'll be roughly from probably about 10 to 2, as we will have the parade, then we will have the reenactment speeches. There will be a pause where there is actually a fundraising luncheon that will be held at the Civic Center. Tickets will be available for sale, limited, but there will be some available for sale right there on that day. And then we'll be going down to the James Hawkins burial site to do the dedication of the memorial marker for Lafayette's ride through Crawford County.
Okay. So in the morning at 10 a.m., is it going to start in the square, or does it start in a different location and end up in the square? Or do y'all know yet?
The parade is actually going to start at the high school.
Okay.
It will probably be a little earlier than 10 than everyone is getting lined up.
Mm-hmm.
But the plan is to start promptly at 10, to come from the high school, come into the center of Roberta,
Okay.
onto the square. We want everyone to come out to celebrate. I'm looking at getting some reenactors for crafts and things that were done kind of in that era.
Oh, neat.
May have a few vendors. We're still this is an event that we are still in the process of planning. There will be more information that will be posted to the Crawford County Historic Society Facebook page.
Okay.
And I will also have updates on the websites and through the Roberta Crawford Chamber of Commerce as well.
Okay, perfect. So just so y'all know, for those of you who are listening, when you're listening, it's going to be in March, but we're recording this in December. So that's why not all the details are ironed out. So by the time you listen to this, they will have ironed out all the details. And so that's why we're making sure that you know about the Facebook pages. We're going to link to that in the show notes. And you'll also be able to find that in any of the articles that I'm writing that has to do with this podcast and this interview, so that you'll have all the up-to-date information. So don't panic and think that it's not finished yet. It is. Just the nature of recording for podcasts and being able to write articles for magazines and stuff. We have to do this way in advance. Just bear with us on that end. So that sounds like a lot of fun.
Yes.
It'll be a really neat experience.
I think it will be. It'll be a little different than a lot of the events that we have had.
Mm-hmm.
We do other events in Crawford.
Right.
So it won't be quite as market driven as far as vendors and things. It will be more having people coming out and kind of seeing what's going on.
Yeah.
If anybody's ever been to the Okmulgee Indian Mounds, their celebration of the Native Americans, they have a lot of demonstrators at times for things. They also do something at the Fort Hawkins site on certain Saturdays. So it'll be more along that line versus saying a whole bunch of vendors for, we want everybody to come and, enjoy themselves. And yes, we have a bunch of other things going on in Roberta as far as like restaurants and things, but we want people to come out and just kind of learn about history and learn about the history that is here, because unfortunately with history, if you do not take the time to learn about it, you forget about it. But there are many things that have happened over time that have given us the life that we have now, and it's a perspective.
Yeah.
And I think that we kind of forget that in our regular day-to-day work, school, kids, family, we kind of forget about what brought us to this. So, and it's a break. It's to see how an event that happened that was a big deal back then what it would have looked like.
Yes, and I love experiential events. I may have just made that word up. I'm not sure, but something where you can go
Educational.
There you go, and immerse yourself in history. That's what it feels like. And growing up, and thinking back to reenactments that I went to for like Civil War in Andersonville and different moments like that in time. I have retained so much more about history because of witnessing that. As a child and as an adult, it's yet another layer of learning about things. And we were, kind of laughing beforehand that there's so many interesting things that you don't learn about that's in a textbook because they can only put so much in a textbook. They got to cover a lot of material and move quickly. But this is a great way to expound on anything that you learned growing up, and you can pay that forward, with your children and your families.
There is. I'm actually learning a lot about Lafayette and the impact that he had and what he did. I mean, we learn about the American Revolutionary War in school, and and which is great, but
he's mentioned, but
he's
that's about
mentioned,
it.
Yeah, he's mentioned, but you really don't understand. We're also there's a lot of things that that happened, and a lot of players in history that you don't really learn about, and this is a way to kind of get a little away from what is in textbook and learn about a different side of history.
Yes,
it's still all connected, it's still all there,
but there's only so much you can do in a classroom.
Yes,
and that's why they take field trips.
It's more of it's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
And for this, it's a culture of the past,
right?
Because while it is American history, this is also the time frame after the Revolution where it was a completely different era.
Yeah.
So it's something to come out and see. It's an event that is not going to happen. This is the 200th anniversary bicentennial. This is not, there's not going to be another in this lifetime. You
can't come in 2026.
Yeah, this is it.
Yeah.
So you want to learn about the history now because it needs to get passed down to younger generations.
Yeah. Well, and I've talked to so many people recently that put on these events and even large historic event reenactments and so on and so forth. And there's been a huge resurgence and interest, I think, especially because we live in this digital age. It's nice to unplug and go back in time and enjoy that slower pace and put yourself in their shoes and think about like, what was that like? It's not like they're going, he wasn't traveling with his companions in a comfortable SUV or minivan or compact car across these terrains. I mean, it was very rough and unpleasant, and he was sick. It was not enjoyable. So, and that was a very tight time frame. We were just talking about the dates that he traveled, and it's pretty incredible when you think about the mode of travel back then, and the fact that he actually didn't get sick coming across the ocean and coming here. And it's pretty neat that not only did he survive it, but he was able to actually make his whole trip. So
true.
What else do we want to talk about with you all have planned, or what you want people to know about Lafayette?
Now, they would like to bring up the fact that Lafayette was an abolitionist. And what exactly is that? In 1825, he advocated for the rights of all free men, and that included those who were enslaved. African Americans were a big part of the American population, and nearly all of them were enslaved at that time. And he advocated for their freedom, which is not a real popular position in 1825.
It's
and
pretty
I think
radical.
but it's important that we recognize that today many things have changed. And actually, on his tour in 1825, he was in Connecticut, and Lafayette saw in the crowd a person that he knew very well. He was a African American guy by the name of James Armistead, and he was actually a servant in the British camp, and but he was actually an American spy. And so he kind of moved freely between the American and the British camps, and he gave a lot of valuable military information to Lafayette, which was useful for the American success later. But anyway, he called up Armistead to the stage where he was and thanked him for his service. And they had a nice embrace there. And we're actually trying to duplicate that in our Georgia locations. It's been estimated that about 5,000 African Americans served in the American Revolution in some manner.
Wow.
Perhaps as soldiers, perhaps as cooks, or in many other capacities. So during our Georgia Lafayette tour, we were trying not only to honor Lafayette and James Armistead, but the thousands of other individuals who assisted in the American cause for freedom and operated behind the scenes, but their services are very much appreciated today. So in each of our Georgia locations, we will have a local actor who will play James Armistead and will be recognized and thanked for his services. Another thing we want to kind of bring up, things that you will see if you come to some of these locations, like in Savannah, in Augusta, we hope to have the Georgia State Patrol in their helicopter unit fly in and do a kind of a formation where we're meeting. It's kind of like a military flyover. But the State Patrol is offered that services to us, and we're going to use that to honor Lafayette. Awesome. And also, the Georgia Sons of the American Revolution will have a multi-unit color guard there. All these guys will be dressed in colonial military uniforms, and we have a militia unit that will fire black powder gun volleys to honor Lafayette at each location. So I think if people show up, they're going to get a lot of good historical information and see some neat stuff that they don't normally see.
Absolutely.
So I would, kind of a thing I wanted to mention, that Lafayette was so strongly American, and he really appreciated what America stood for, and he realized that this was kind of like the Wild West being tamed, and a freedom at its purest, where people could earn their own living. They could get out there and fight, feed their families, and do different things, and form their own kind of government without royalty around them. You know what I mean? There wasn't someone telling them what to do. They had to do it on their own.
Which is even more radical when you think about the fact that he was a Marquis. So, it's not like he was a commoner. Where that would be attractive for. That's right. That's just very interesting.
Yep. And then when he went back to France after the war, and later on he would pass away, natural causes, as an elderly man. He was so strongly supporting America and didn't really want to leave it behind. He took part of America with him. When he was buried in Paris, he had some dirt from the Battle of Brandywine placed on his grave.
Oh, wow.
So
that's very special.
And the grave is still there, obviously, and the American flag has flown on his grave every day, even during World War I and II.
Wow.
When it was taken over by the Nazis, they kept the flag flying.
Wow.
So, I wonder how in the world they were able to do that.
That's amazing.
That is amazing.
Yeah, so anyway, that was a really important thing that is worth mentioning, that even in his passage, he honored America.
That's really neat.
Mm-hmm.
That is, because I never knew that one.
No.
Definitely not in school books.
No, that's what's fun about history is the teachers can spark your interest and your quest for more information, and then this is the kind of thing that you take that ownership and you go and you learn more.
One other thing I want to mention to you is that we talk about all the good things, but Lafayette was always into political intrigue, and when he went back to Paris, he kind of got involved in the French Revolution. And you probably already know that there were like 3,000 people who were beheaded, and he actually feared for his life.
Yeah.
He got involved in politics, and he wound up being arrested and serving 5 years in prison. As a political refugee, really.
Wow.
So, and then he got out when Napoleon came into power on the condition that he not involved in politics.
Huh.
So.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but anyway, it's just interesting that he, came back to Paris and advocating for freedom and wound up being arrested.
Right.
So,
well, he's lucky that he wasn't killed.
he wasn't beheaded.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
That's true.
For speaking out. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so I learned a lot of new things already today. Okay, so is there anything else about Lafayette's journey through Georgia, this 200th anniversary, that we have not covered that we need to make sure that we say?
We want to encourage all of our citizens to come out and enjoy this celebration, learn more about Lafayette and what American freedom is all about. And it always, hopefully, will lead people to want to know more.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of good organizations like the Sons of the American Revolution or the Daughters of the American Revolution, Huguenots, the Society of 1812, that, we're really involved in history all the time, or even on a local level like Nikki and the Roberta Crawford County Historical Society. We encourage people to get involved in history. Not most, but a lot of the people in America have roots back into the American Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
And when you find out that you had a great, great, great grandfather that was in a certain battle and served, in the American Revolution, it brings it home to you. So we encourage you to learn more about your history and to share that with your children because they are our future.
Yeah, and if you live in or around one of the areas that we mentioned that have an event going on and you'd like to maybe even do more than just show up and enjoy it, reach out. We're going to link to the different pages that will have all the details for all the events on Facebook. But it never hurts to reach out if you're interested in volunteering or doing something in a greater capacity, because pretty much everything that we're talking about is being done by 100% volunteer base. All hands, any hands are greatly appreciated, I know, in every single location. Okay, so let's go over what are the actual dates in March 2025 that people need to come out for the reenactments and the celebrations for Lafayette's journey.
In Savannah, it'll be March the 21st and 22nd. In Augusta, it will be the March the 23rd. Warrenton, it'll be the afternoon of the 24th. Sparta will be on the 25th. Milledgeville will be on the 26th of March. Jones County, we're actually going to Jones County on the 27th of March. We'll be in Macon on the 28th, Roberta on the 29th, and then on to Marion County on the 30th.
Okay, perfect.
Again, if history is something that you're even slightly interested in, reach out. All of the groups that put these types of things on, all of them are volunteer. It is our own time, our own money, lots of fundraising, and we definitely can always use help. And you learn a lot with doing it. It gets you involved with your community.
So again, make sure that you go to the Facebook pages that we have linked, and you can find that easily in the show notes. Make sure that you share this with a friend if you've enjoyed it or you learned something new today, because this is the whole reason why we do this podcast, is we want to make sure that we get the word out about things that are happening in our own backyard, in our own region, so that we can celebrate and enjoy as communities and get out there and see what our areas have to offer. Thank you both so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
It was a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
If you enjoyed today's podcast, we need your help. Please give us a 5-star review wherever you're listening to this podcast. It really does help us get this information out to more people about what's going on in Central and Southwest Georgia. Also, share this podcast on social media with your friends and family, because it helps get more eyes and ears on what we have going on in our fabulous communities. Thank you.